Shabbat Shalom, Mishpacha. This is Rabbi Simon, and here we are another Sabbath day and a wonderful day, Baruch Hashem. So, let me first give you a testimony, and I think this is a good one to encourage you. Remember, I told you last week that there was a girl that I had helped, and she was jobless, and she came to me, and they were struggling with food and stuffs. So I sent a little help, and then I told her, I said, this is what you do. And maybe she's around 22 or something, age wise. And I said that she had never worked before. I said, have you ever worked before? And she said no. I asked her education. She had, like kind of standard education, nothing big, no degrees, nothing like that. So I said to her, I said, this is what you do. You go in the name of the Kohen, and you pray like this, that in the name of the son of Aaron, I ask this, that, to God, in the name of the son of Aaron, I ask that the job be granted to me. And so she went, and there was, some makeup store, and she went to some makeup store in town, and she had an interview with them. They had a vacancy, and they gave her the job. Took 2 days. She prayed for 2 days only. Okay, so she came back and she told me she was very happy. She said, I got the job, and I'm starting on in 3 days time, and this is what happened. So I said, how did you pray? She said, well, I wrote down the prayer. I said that in the name of the son of Aaron, that God, of course, God, in this case Allah, for her. She said, I pray to Allah that in the name of Aaron, in the name of son of Aaron, that you grant me food, that I may not thirst, or I may not suffer for lack of food. And she said, I prayed that for 2 days, and the third day I got the job. I said, wonderful. Baruch Hashem, that's wonderful, that's great. So she's very happy, and that case was solved. Then her friend came to me, and her friend was also jobless, similar age, again, similar kind of education, and she had no job. And although their circumstances were not as dire in their home, however, her father was ill. And I'll tell you the story about the father in a minute, what happened. And I knew her before, because she told me that her father was ill, and the father had what's called a fissure. You understand a fissure? It's when people get constipated too much, and over time they get hemorrhoids, and they can get piles, and then at some point a fissure can become on the lower large intestine, and then normally they tell you to have an operation. And operations, they just cut the fissure out, and then they wait for that to heal, and if your constipation don't stop, you can get fissures back again. So the operation is not the cure, it's only a symptomatic relief. So anyway, the girl said to me that her father is ill, therefore he wasn't able to go to his job, regular work, because he's ill. He's having a hard time even sitting down because of the pain in the lower body. So I said to the girl, first of all, I told her what she needed to do to avoid the operation. So I gave them a cure, and I can't speak the cure publicly. I am a physician, but I won't speak the cure publicly because, for various reasons, as you know, because YouTube might not like and delist the video or something, so better not to say it. But anyway, what happened, part of the cure involved a certain method, and so the certain method was done successfully. But then what happened, the fissure had, it was not healing as fast as it should. So I prescribed to her another method that she needed to do, a second part of the method. But the problem was that I didn't have the necessary medication that I wanted to give her. It wasn't available by her, where she was. So I came up with a substitute, and it's an amazing substitute. It maybe one I'll speak about later some point. So I gave her a substitute, and I said, do the substitute, which she could get locally. And so she did the substitute. And then it took about maybe, she said that her father's fissure, the mother was, helping treat it and bandage it. And she was saying that there was pus coming out. And I said, don't worry about it. We'll deal with the pus. So I gave her another cure, another method, which I said will help cure that pus and completely, dry it and fix it for good. And I said this fix is not going to require any operations, and he'll never have to get an operation done ever in the future, provided he keeps his diet sorted and doesn't get constipated, which he was now doing anyway. So it took about 6 days, or maybe not even 7, I think 6 days. And I kept taking a report from her every maybe 2-3 days. I asked her about prognosis, update. So she gave me update, and finally she came to me and she said to me that her mother is very, very thankful that the recommendation that you gave, her father's now pus is dried, the wound is healed, and the fissure is gone. So very wonderful. Was very, very happy with her. So I told her I'm very happy, and continue with whatever she needs to. But then she said that obviously after a few days of rest, I guess the father can go back to his work. He's a cook of some kind, and I think you'll understand if I tell you that he's a cook who makes food when people have weddings and when people have functions on events. He makes big, these big digs, these are like big pots, and you might cook 10 kilograms of rice, 10 kilograms of chicken, 10 kilograms of beef or mutton, and you might have 6 of those or 7 of those, depending on your wedding and depending on your event, how many. So he does that kind of thing. But anyway, he's still he's in the recovery phase. In a few days he'll be completely recovered, then he can hopefully go back to work. So the daughter said to me that I don't have a job. I said, okay. So I said, your friend, her friend was actually her cousin. So I said, your cousin, the one you introduced to me, she now has a job. And do you remember what I told her? And she said, yeah, you told her to pray in your name, in the name of the Kohen, the son of Aaron. And I said, go and do the same. Go and do the same thing and report back to me. She said, okay. So I said, ask your friend the method, and if you're not sure, then she'll tell you. So she went to her friend or cousin and asked her, and she told her. And then this girl prayed for 2 days. And then she goes for an interview, and some kind of a local company that does some kind of vaccines or something. Anyway, she gets the job. And she comes back, and she's so happy. And she tells me, she says, I got the job. And I said, when are you starting? She said, I'm starting 1st of the month of November. I said, okay, wonderful. Congratulations. So just to show you the power, this is the power of the Kohen's name. So I'm not making these things up. It is what it is. So if you're unemployed, if you're struggling and you want to get a job, do the same thing. You ask, in the name of the Kohen, the son of Aaron, I ask this request from God. And in this case, God, don't have to name God. You don't have to say, whatever name, according to your culture. According to your culture, whatever you call your God's name, you do this. Okay? So I'm not going to tell you what names to use, but I'm going to tell you whatever your culture uses, standard name, you use that name. According to your culture, according to your language. So if you're in America, you're gonna call God God, of course. England, God God. But if you're somewhere else, maybe you use some particular name. So that's fine. Do that, and your problem, if your joblessness, it will be resolved. Okay, I could guarantee that it will be resolved, provided that you do it sincerely. It will happen. Now, Coming back to last week, and I remember there was a few things that I told you last week, and there's still something that I'm working on, and but I will give you the result of that maybe in the next lecture. We'll see when the result comes in, and I'm going to show you the power of belief. This is the power of belief. Last week I told you how by believing that there's going to be rain, that even though it was sunny for the next 2, 3, 4 days, I kept believing and I kept saying that I smell rain, I hear rain, and I see rain. And 4 days later it rained, even though it was sunny for the majority of the first 4 days. So this is called the power of belief. The power of belief is in you believing in spite of your eyes, which I call the false gods. Your eyes, your ears, they can sometimes be false in the sense that you believe them and you lose out when you believe them. But if you have faith and you continue to believe what you desire, it will come to you, even though you don't see it immediately, but it will come to your 3D, and you can help this. Sometimes you can help it. The way you help it is you can use your ear to hear, or your eyes to see in the imagination and in the back of your head. And the way we do that for the rain, the way it works is you can hear the sound of rain. You know how sometimes it rains and you can hear the sound? So you can hear the sound of rain, and I'm pretty sure that wherever you live, you know how the rain sounds when it hits on your roof. So you can imagine hearing that sound, and then the rain comes. Okay? Similarly, for whatever you desire, and I don't know what you desire, maybe you desire a car, and let's say if you desire a car, then in your imagination you want to hear the sound of an engine, and maybe you want to see the image of the vehicle you desire, and with the image I would say you sitting in the car holding the steering. That would be a good image, but you want to continue to believe that. Similarly with the job, the easiest way to do it, as I explained to you, you can use my name, but if you want to go another route, then there's other routes as well. You can imagine it. You can imagine hearing congratulations. But having said that, the most powerful I've given you. The rest is up to you how you apply it. And so from here, I wanted you to take you to a story of the Master Yeshua Jesus, in which I want to go to Matthew chapter 5. And in Matthew chapter 5, and we can read from the Hebraic Truths, Hidden Truths Hebraic Scrolls. We can read from the 7th edition. So give me a moment, please. Let me just open it up. So we read in Matthew chapter 5, verse 1, "And seeing the multitudes, he went up into a mountain, and when he was set, his disciples came to him, and he opened his mouth and taught them, saying, Blessed are the poor in Ruach, for theirs is the kingdom of Shemaim, the kingdom of heaven." So let's stop here for a minute. Who are the poor? We've often, I guess, been taught in Christianity that the poor are the regular poor people, and they are the ones who are poor in spirit. And then we are also taught, because I believe in the same passage, down in the passage, it says that one of the verses says that the poor shall always be with you. The poor shall always be with you, and people take that to mean that poverty can never be finished. But unfortunately, this is not the meaning of the passage. So let me tell you, this is not the meaning of the passage. Because first of all, who are the poor in spirit? Poor in spirit has an allegorical meaning. It does not have a literal meaning. That's the other problem that we have. Sometimes we take scripture and we apply literal meaning to it when the meaning is actually not literal. Here the meaning is not literal, it's allegorical, Blessed means they are blessed, the poor in spirit. So is it talking about poor as in lack of money? The answer is no. Poor in spirit basically means that you have desires in your life. You have several desires, and you're going to continue to have those desires. So, blessed are the poor in spirit. That is the person who is poor. The poor person is the one who has the desires. Because he has the desires, he is not going to be fulfilled with one desire. He's going to continue to have one after the other. He may have one desire fulfilled, then he wants to have something else. So the poor will always be with you. The poor will always be with you here means, suggests to us that it is that person who continues to have a desire. Because as a human being, you're never going to stop having desires. Because you're always going to have desires. Today you might want a car, tomorrow you might want a house, then you want furniture, then you want TV, then you want something else. The desires continue. You don't stop and say, oh, that's it, I've got my TV, I've got my house, I've got my car, that's it, I don't want nothing else. We never say that. So our desires, they actually continue. This means that the poor shall always be with you is nothing to do with financial poverty. Absolutely nothing. That, unfortunately, is the bad teachings that we received through media, Christian channels, Christian pastors, and whatnot. So, the poor shall always be with you is more appropriate in that we are always going to have desires. Always. And this is why it's important that we remember what it is that we are desiring and what it is that we are asking. So if I open up that passage, the poor, which is in Matthew chapter 26, verse 11, where it says that the poor shall always be with you, but you will not always have me. So what does that mean? You will not always have me. Well, Jesus, he's speaking about both him being with you and not being with you for those who don't have him. So how does that mean, not have him? Basically, remember Jesus in the kingdom for a second. Let's go back and remember that Jesus said that you will be with me today. When he was being crucified and he had the three thieves around him, or the two thieves around him, and then what did he say? Today you will be with me in paradise. So technically Jesus is in paradise. Technically. Where is the paradise? The kingdom is within you. So where is Jesus? Where does Jesus' spirit, where does his power reside? It resides within you. So when he says, the poor you will always have with you, not talking about financial poverty, talking about those who have desires. But you will not always have me, meaning that when Jesus departed from the earth, we physically saw him. When he was on the earth, we physically saw him. Now he's not on the earth, we don't physically see him, but is now within us. So we can access Jesus within us. I remember many years ago, back in 1998, when I had the visitation, when I heard the voice of Yeshua, Jesus, he said to me that he also told me that I'll be with you always. I'll be with you always, okay? So, and I hadn't read no Bible. By the way, I had read no Bible at that time. So to me, how is he going to be with me always? I didn't know how. Until later, as I matured and grew in understanding, I understood that it means that Jesus is within me. Because if the kingdom is within me, then Jesus is within me. And I can access Yeshua, Jesus, inside me. So, through prayer, through supplication, through the necessary means that I've been teaching you. So, when you do an affirmation or when you do supplication, prayers, even your affirmation is a prayer. And remember that the voice, the audio, when we speak, there is power in that when we speak, and that audio, the voice, remains. In other words, it doesn't vanish. We speak and you can hear it, like I'm speaking to you now, but the voice remains in the atmosphere. It remains in the environment. So always, I know that the yogis, the Indian yogis, they teach that it's more powerful not to speak, or it's more powerful to whisper, or not to speak, because if you speak it weakens. I disagree with that, by the way. I disagree with it to some extent. Why? Because whisper, yes, whisper can have its certain power, but I believe it's more powerful to directly speak. I believe that has more power. Now, I'm not saying for you to shout. I'm just saying regular speech has more power. So your affirmation, I would always argue for speaking it versus not speaking it. Why? Because when you speak an affirmation, if you said, let's say, example, you said that I have $1 million. Okay? Your tongue vibrates. Did you know that? Your tongue vibrates when it speaks. And that creates some kind of frequency. And that vibration, you may not know it, but that vibration is about 3 to 6 foot around you. And that vibration goes out into the atmosphere. Yeah, it's in the atmosphere, that vibration. Now, imagine that you don't speak. You just say it in your head. If you do the same affirmation in your head and you say, I have $1 million, I have $1 million, well, then it's in your head. It hasn't gone out anywhere. So now your brain is responsible for getting it out, and your brain can take its sweet time. That's why people say, why is it taking so long? It's because you may be not speaking it. Your speech is stuck in your head. So if your speech is stuck in your head, then it's for your brain to do the work of pushing it out. Now, your brain has to process billions of bits of information, and who knows when it will have the time to send that information out to the universe, to the atmosphere, to the ether. So today I'm teaching you that it is actually more powerful to speak it, declare it. Now, I was listening to a testimony of somebody in the past. I'm trying to think the name. Oh yeah, Katie. The woman's name is Katie, and she's not a new writer. She's an old writer, and I'm talking about from the 19th century. Her name is Emile. I think Emile Cady. Cady. I was thinking it's Katie, but it's not Katie. It's Cady. Emile Cady. Now, Emile Cady was a writer in the past and strongly believed in God. And she believed that everything is God. God is all around us. Very, very strong Christian kind of belief. And I think she may have helped to form the Unity Church back then in the early 19th century. Now, this is what I kind of heard about Katie. Katie said that one time she had swelling somewhere on her leg and pain. So she locked herself in a room and she started to say that everything is God, and the rest is a lie. Everything is God and the rest is a lie. Everything is God and the rest is a lie. She kept saying the affirmation. And she found that after maybe a few hours, her inflammation or her swelling came down and her pain, lessened. And then she was saying that she was praying to God, and she was saying that I was praying to God that God is my supply, and to that effect. And of course, those days were hard days for many people because many people were poor. And I think she was maybe she was some kind of physician as well. I'm not sure if she was into homeopathy or something. So anyway, she was, praying to God. One time she was deeply in prayer, and she was saying, God is my supply, and so on and so forth. And then God said to her that you need to command it. You now said it, and in order to get rid of her poverty, she said you need to command it. And so she said, oh, okay, so I'm missing that point. Means that she wasn't declaring it properly. So now she started to declare it properly. She said, God has now manifested as my supply. It is done. Let me repeat that again. God has now manifested as my supply. It is done. That was an affirmation. She said that was the affirmation that removed my poverty forever. I never had poverty after that. And I have some of her other, as I was listening to this podcast, and there was a couple of other affirmations that she mentioned, and maybe let me see if I can find those, and I can speak those to you as well. Three other affirmations that she had was, there is no lack in God, therefore no lack in me. God is my instant and abundant supply. God in me is a source of all wealth, wisdom, and power. So let me repeat those three again. There is no lack in God, therefore no lack in me. God is my instant and abundant supply. God in me is a source of all wealth, wisdom, and power. And of course, a famous one which removed her poverty was, God has now manifested as my supply. It is done. So what do we learn from this? We learn from this that there is God Almighty, and everything is God. We don't need to argue that point. That point, I think, is being manifested for us through God's testimony, through other people that we heard of. So I'm convinced, and probably some of you will be convinced, that we don't need to go around playing a bugle and telling everybody there's God, because we already know there is one power. There's one source, and that source is God. And we all have been created through that source, and we have been sent here to experience our lives. And then, of course, once we experience these lives, we're going to go back, and then we're probably going to come back again. So how long this continues, we don't know how long this continues. But we know that God directs everything. We know that God is the all power that directs this and that makes this happen. Now, what I wanted to teach you. Let me teach you something that I wanted to teach you. And this is something that I think will help a lot of you. This number I'm going to teach you actually comes from a Muslim mystic. The number is 112211. I don't know if I ever spoke about it in the past, but it comes from a mystical Muslim family that has been around for 600 years back in the East. And by the way, this is what I'm going to give you is true, and it works. I'm not asking you to test it and check it out. No, none of this checking out. This is what I'm giving you from now on is truth and works. Now let's say you write the number 112211, and I believe it's the man's name who's a mystic, or it didn't come from him. It came from his forefathers, probably his father, and maybe even before his father, maybe his grandfather. And I'm not sure if it was before his grandfather's time, but there is 600 years of history in this. And I believe the guy's name is Shalabdi. So this number, the way you make it work for you, because numbers have power, as I told you before. So the way you work this number, apparently, is you write the number 112211 on a piece of paper with either a black felt tip pen or just a black pen on a white paper with no lines. In other words, a printing paper. The printing paper that has no lines, you use that. So you take a little bit paper, you write your number, and let's say you put it on your phone. or in your phone somehow, in your cover, or maybe you put it, just on the back of your cover, you tape it or something. And what that does, it duplicates. And by the way, like I said, this works. This doesn't need to be tried and tested. It works. I already know that. So how does it work? You can put it on your laptop. It will duplicate your laptop. I've heard of people putting it on their broken machine, like a washing machine. On their broken machine, they put this number, and either the machine started to work or they got a new machine. I've heard of people putting it on their car. They put this number on the inside of their car, on the dash. They stick it with a little sticky tape, and they leave it, and they got a new car. It was an old car that they had. Now they got a new car. Money for a new car was given. I've heard of this number being used in a dire strait where people had no food. They just had empty tins, empty cans of food, empty cans of flour, empty cans of sugar and rice and all that. So what they did, they put this number on the empty cans, and then miraculously they got food from some place. Somebody came and gave them food. So this numbers work. So if any of you want to try it, you are welcome to do so. You have my permission to do so, and it's absolutely no problem for you to try this. The power is there. If you put it on your phone, you can duplicate your phone, put it on you can put this number on your house, on your door, not on the outside, but on the inside of your door, but not on the moving part. Not on the moving part. You put it on the part of the door that is fixed, and top part of the door. That is called the, we have a name for it in the language. I'm trying to figure out a name in the English language. The frame part of the door. So you can put it on the door frame, which doesn't move, and you put it on top of the frame, same way, 112211 in white paper, black ink, and you will get a house. Yes, you will get another house. If you already have one house, you'll get two houses. Yes, I've even heard of a testimony from a person. They said that they had one house, they put it on their door, on that frame part, and they got a second house. Now, I heard of a woman talking about this, saying that she put it on a car, her old car, inside the dash. She put it with some tape, regular sellotape, and then they were offered another car within a short space of time. They were offered a new car, and they only had to pay a small amount of money, and they got the new car. So it's very, very powerful. This number is very, very powerful. It duplicates everything. Now, normally you can put it in your money, and it'll help to multiply your money. Yeah, you put it in your wallet, or you put this on a card, and you put your money on it. Wherever you put your money, in your drawer, in your home, or your safe, you put that underneath there, under the money, and you put the money on top of it. It will multiply your money. And yes, that works. So with that, I'm not going to go on too long. I've already done 33 minutes of the time. I think that I want you to apply these techniques, and I want you to use these. And again, with prayer, I may give more examples of prayer down the road, how to pray and how to get what you desire and how to make things move faster for you. Okay? Because this is all about blessing, how to be blessed, how to be, how to be victor in your life. Because it's enough time, we just chase around, what this Hebrew says and what that Hebrew says. Enough of that time. It is time now we move the life of our listeners and move the life of people who are with us to bless them in these things, so they can be spiritually abundantly, physically abundantly blessed, have long lives, have great health in their lives, great relationships. So, I'll be coming back with examples of that. I've already in the past told you, and I warned you about the numbers in number 5, number 7, how to avoid those numbers on your doors, not have a house with the number 7 or number 5, and not a person with a house with a number 5, number 7. Now you might be thinking, maybe it's just superstition. No, it's not superstition. I'm telling you what is. And let me give you an example today, something I've never shared with you. I will share with you today before I leave, and that is my mother. My mother's surname, I won't tell you what her surname was, but her surname rounded to the number 5. Okay? And my mother got a cancer and she died from the cancer. So what does that tell you about number 5? Think about it. My mother was young. She wasn't an old woman. She was a young woman, whippersnapper, and she died in her 30s. Okay? So take it seriously. I'm not giving you here jokes and laughter. I'm giving you serious things that can have serious impact on your life, for good or for bad. So have a wonderful, wonderful Sabbath. Until next time, Shabbat Shalom to you. Love you all. Take care of yourselves. And God bless you all.